Welcome to Pub Natter, where we record each episode in a different pub in Rutland, the smallest county in England. In each episode, your hosts, Tim and Justin, give a voice to the landlords and landladies and a special guest with a specific area of interest or expertise. We hope you enjoy our chats, and it encourages you to go and explore our little county and all it has to offer. Like the motto says, there is much in little. We recently visited the Olive Branch in Clipsham, Rutland, to natter with two amazing people. Our first guest in this episode is Ben Jones, the co-owner. We discuss how he took the Olive Branch from a dilapidated building and turned it into only the second pub in UK to receive a Michelin star. Recorded on the same day and released next week is a discussion with Alicia Kearns, Member of Parliament for Melton and Rutland. We start with a little bit of Clipsham history from Justin.
So, we're here in Clipsham, which is a small village in Rutland, on the wrong side of the A1, but it is nonetheless in Rutland. Compared to Whitwell, where we were a couple of weeks ago, it's a throbbing metropolis because it's got about 160 people. It's famous for its stone. Clipsham stone is quite famous. It was used in Canterbury Cathedral, the Houses of Parliament, York Minster, and Trinity and King's College in Cambridge, and of course the Olive Branch that we're sitting in. The stone was also used for Clipsham Hall, which was built around 1700 as the seat of the Lord of the Manor. The Lord of the Manor died in 2014, and as far as we know, the hall is now in private hands. There's a church in the village, which dates back as far as the 12th century. It was modified after that, but it's essentially the same size and shape now as it was in the 14th century. So that's about 100 years before Columbus started wandering around. One of the bells in the church was produced by Toby Norris in the foundry in Stamford, which has become the pub in Stamford that now bears his name. The other famous thing that Clipsham has going for it is Yew Tree Avenue. Leading up to the hall, there are 150 shaped yew trees in two rows either side of the walking path, which used to be the carriage road into the hall. I wouldn't put it up there with the pyramids or the Great Barrier Reef, but if mass topiary is the sort of thing that makes you toggles of your anorak twitch, then I think it's well worth a visit.
When rain stops play, it's time for some pub natter. So we're in the Olive Branch in Clipsham in Rutland. Justin, my co-presenter's on my left, and we have Ben Jones, the co-owner of the Olive Branch, as our guest. We'll be asking him lots of questions.
Yes, I'm ready.
Do you know, first of all, I never realised Clipsham was in Rutland. I always had it in my head that the moment you got to the A1, Rutland ended, because we're such a small county anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I lived in Oakham for 20 years, and I think the first time I came to Clipsham was to look at buying the Olive Branch 25 years ago. So yeah, I was the same. It's kind of that thing when you live on one side of the A1, you never go to the other. You maybe go to Stamford. But yeah, I don't think I had. But yeah, the border's about a mile from here, in between here and Castle Bytham. And it's quite interesting, if it snows, you can see where the border is, because the Rutland snowplows stop halfway to turn around and come back again. They don't even go to the junction in Castle Bytham. They stop halfway and then turn around and come back again.
Well, I've been in Oakham for 27 years, and this is the first time I've ever been to Clipsham.
Oh, really? Yeah, I know. It's incredible.
And I've been a member at Greetham Golf Club, which is 2 miles away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so. No, it's very interesting. Yeah, not a lot. And until we came here and opened up the Olive Branch, yeah, lots of people didn't know where Clipsham is now. But it's quite interesting. I had a lady who came to see me this morning, who said she lives in Milan, and she spoke to some friends and said she was coming here, and her friends in Milan had heard of the Olive Branch in Clipsham.
Wow.
Quite incredible.
Wow.
Well, I've been here several times.
Yeah.
I have to say, it is a great restaurant.
Thank you.
Multi-award winning restaurant.
Yeah, we've done very well.
And you got some nice beer as well.
I know, it's very good beer, isn't it? Well, that's the Round Corner, which is from Melton Mowbray. They make some incredible beers in the market in Melton Mowbray, Round Corner Brewery. They do some brilliant new craft beers. And then, of course, we've got Grain Store in Oakham, which we have there
Sure.
cooking, and we call it olive ale. And we've served that. That's been on the bar since we opened 25 years ago.
Oh, you've
So, yeah.
rebranded.
Yeah, we call it we call it olive ale. So we used to call, when we first came here, we used to call it olive oil, and then somebody from Trade Descriptions said we couldn't call it olive oil because it's not olive oil, quite clearly.
Yeah.
So I thought, as if anybody's really going to get confused.
No sense of humour.
Exactly when
I'll
they
have
say
a pint of olive oil,
yeah,
please.
and they're disappointed because they don't get a pint of olive oil, they get beer. So yes, so we rebranded it to olive ale. So it works just as well. But a lot of the locals still call it olive oil, which is quite nice.
Cool. So let's talk about the story. Are you from this area originally?
Yes, yes. I was at school in Oakham.
Oh, right. So which school did you go to?
So I went to Oakham School. I was kind of brought up mostly in Gretton, Northamptonshire.
Mm-hmm.
And then we moved to Oakham when I was 16. I then went to Southfield College, got on the train every morning from Oakham Station and went into Leicester to Southfields College and did what was in those days called an Ordinary National Diploma in Hospitality Management. So yeah,
Yes.
I did that for 2 years, and then I worked at Hambleton Hall and kind of almost did an apprenticeship there.
Oh, right.
So I worked there for two and a half years.
What was your role there?
So there I was a waiter, front of house. So originally I was really interested in being a chef. I used to cook at home and really enjoyed cooking with my father and for my father and that sort of stuff. So I really enjoyed cooking. So I went to college because I thought it would be a good idea to learn about management. And then I got the opportunity to do a 2-week work placement at Hambleton Hall, and I thought it'd be great that I should maybe work in a restaurant and see what it's like to be a waiter. If I was going to be in the kitchen, then I should learn to see what it'd be like to be a waiter. So I did a 2-week placement there, and then Graham, who's still the restaurant manager at Hambleton, who was the restaurant manager when I was there, offered me a part-time job. So I used to cycle up the hill from Oakham into Hambleton on a Friday night. I was allowed to serve the bread, and that was about it. Then after that, when I finished the part-time, finished college, they offered me a full-time job. So I kind of did almost like a little, not a management trainee scheme, but I kind of worked in all the front of house departments, worked my way up to head waiter, head barman.
Wow.
And then suggested to Mr. Hart that it'd be really nice if I could go to France. And he found me a place to work in France. So I went to work in a country house hotel in a little village called Barbizon, which is very famous for the painters, just south of Paris. And I worked there for 2 years in at a very nice country house hotel. Learned lots of amazing service skills, and then came back. And after 2 years, and came back and worked at another country house hotel called Gravetime Manor.
Can I just stop you there? What did you learn in France that you couldn't have learned in England?
Well, French for a start, which I tried to learn at school for about 5 years.
Had to be
But it was
rooted in English.
yeah, exactly. It was exactly that. Yeah, I spent 6 months being spoken to in French, and I thought nobody here speaks English. This is absolutely horrendous. After 6 months, I was managing to converse in French to them, and all of a sudden they all turned around to me and they could all speak English.
Funny
it was
was that?
incredible. But I learned incredibly quickly. Within 6 months, I could.
When you need to.
Yeah, when you need to, and when you're being spoken to continuously in French. Where if they had spoken to me in English, it would have taken me a lot longer.
Yeah.
But yeah, what they taught me there was it was a very traditional restaurant. So they taught me they did a lot of work at the table, so carving at the table. So we used to do carved duck at the table, carved pheasant, carve rib of beef at the table, fillet fish at the table. So I learned to fillet Dover sole at the table.
That is
All
very,
those
very
sorts
difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, all those brilliant skills which we used to wheel a trolley up.
Yeah.
And then you used to have to serve all these. We'd present them on big silver salvers, and we had to take the Dover sole off the silver salver and take the fillets off and take the bone out, all done with a spoon and fork, and then presented to the customer.
And quickly enough to...
Exactly.
So it's still hot when they get to eat it.
Exactly. The real skill was doing it quickly enough that it was still hot, and then pour the sauce over. And then decanting bottles of wine at the table and all that sort of stuff. So all those sorts of skills which you really wouldn't have in English or British restaurant, apart from some of the old-style French ones in London. So yeah, it learnt me an awful lot.
Okay, for the uninitiated, clearly you don't learn that the first time by walking up to the table with somebody's dinner.
No.
How do they? How do you learn?
No, well,
because it
yeah,
must be
well,
expensive to practice.
Yeah, I don't know. There wasn't any practice involved. I think you watch, and then to be fair, they were very good at kind of talking you through it in front of the table. Or often than not, what might happen is if they had a table of 6, and the table of 6 had ordered 2 or 3 dishes to be carved at the table, then the main waiter would do 2, and then the head waiter might stand next to me whilst I did another, kind of maybe slightly in the background, so it wasn't being seen. So that worked well, because if there were 3 or 4 of you, then the focus might be on 2 of the others, and somebody else might be at the back. So, and just lots of guidance and explaining things to me. So yeah, they were. To be fair, they taught me a great deal, and I made some great friends out there. Yeah, and I had an amazing time.
So no university.
No university.
So a good example of the proof that isn't the only way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, although it's becoming increasingly difficult, I think, isn't it now? Unfortunately, apprenticeships and things aren't quite the same. But yeah, the University of Life, I suppose. Yeah, I learned a great deal particularly going to France. Yeah, it's an amazing experience.
And then you came back to UK.
And I came back to the UK and went to another country house hotel in near Gatwick in Sussex called Gravetye Manor near East Grinstead, and worked there and was the restaurant manager there for 2 years. And then I went to a place called Nunsmere, which is in Cheshire, for a very short period. That didn't work out, unfortunately. And then I came back to Hambleton Hall as restaurant manager again. Well, not again, but as restaurant manager, came back to Hambleton Hall, which was great, which was when Aaron, who's the current head chef, had just started his tenure as head chef. So that was really exciting. And then Mr. Hart decided he wanted to open a brasserie in Nottingham, and he opened a brasserie in Nottingham called Hart's, and I went there as the opening general manager. So
Famous.
So yeah, we did very well there. So I helped set that up. Spent a year or 6 months getting that ready. Then did the opening of that, and then worked there for 2 years. And having kind of done the Hambleton Hall, where it was suits and dinner jackets, and then Hart's, which was more casual suits but still a suit, I quite enjoyed, and it became more and more informal. I thought, well, the next step of this, I enjoyed the informality of it and the spending more time talking to the customers, and I thought the next stage might be a pub. So yeah, we decided, myself, Sean and Marcus, decided it'd be quite interesting to have a pub and do great food and great wine and great beer in a really, really informal atmosphere.
But this place, and that's presumably when you came here.
Yeah.
But this place wasn't a pub then, was it?
It was it had been closed for 3 years.
Right. Okay.
So it was a pub, but then it had been closed, and they had tried selling it. They had tried to de-license it, to sell it as a private property, but it got refused once, and was about to go through again when we came along and put an offer in and bought it.
What sort of state was it in?
Yeah, it was not in a great state. Yeah, we've got a book somewhere, but yeah, it wasn't in a great state. So we spent. So there's a floor in what we call the pine room, which has pine tables in it. It was a quarry tile floor that was covered in carpet. We pulled up the carpet and thought it'd be a great idea to expose the quarry tiles. And I had lots of friends who came to help us, and my friends still tell the same story of how they came and helped us scrub the glue off this quarry tile floor. And we used everything you could imagine. Probably the chemicals that we used 25 years ago, you probably wouldn't be allowed to use anymore. But everything someone said it'd be a good idea to try petrol, so we were trying petrol and to burn this glue off and all sorts of... So yeah, it was in quite a state, but we managed to turn it all around with the help of friends, family, villagers came and helped, and we managed to turn it all around in 6 weeks. We bought it in November '99 and opened it in the middle of December with a Christmas party for the village.
Wow.
So yeah, we did quite, and we had help from some local builders, electricians, and everybody came and digged in and helped us out. It was brilliant. Yeah, it was a very good time. Yeah.
And it's a hell of a leap. You know,
Yeah.
you've got a steady job, decent income,
Yeah.
and you take a deep breath and
Yeah.
you go and do something like this. I mean,
Yeah.
how long had you thought about it? Was it planned it for a while, or?
Not a great deal. We'd kind of discussed it, or Marcus and I had discussed it, and thought it would be something we'd like to do. And because of the nature of the catering industry, I suppose I'd handed my notice in and told Tim Hart that I was leaving I was leaving Hearts because I needed to leave Hart, but I didn't have any. I knew what I wanted to do, but I had no other plans than that. But just because of the nature of hospitality, when I was working, I just didn't have time to go out and plan a business or to look at sites. So basically, I said the only way I'm going to do this is if I leave, because then I will have to find something. I'll be forced into finding something to buy, and I'll have the time to do it. So I think we spent 3 or 4 months looking and preparing a business plan. And again, Tim Hart was very helpful. He introduced us to his accountants, and they introduced us to a bank. So we wrote a business plan, looked around various pubs. We looked at a couple of pubs and other pubs in Rutland that now no longer pubs anymore. There's one in North Luffenham, a couple of others, and then we came to Clipsham. We spoke to Sean, who we knew from Hambleton Hall, who was a chef at Hambleton Hall, and his mum lived in the village, and his first job here was pot washing. So we went to him because we knew him and said, look, we're looking at this pub in Clipsham. We might buy it, but we're not sure about it. Do you think it? Will it be a good pub? Will it be busy? And he said, yeah, I used to work there and it'd be incredible. And he said, and if you do buy it, then I'll join you. So that was and sure, Marcus was a wine expert. I was more front of house, and we didn't have a chef. And just by chance, John said, if you buy it, I'll come and I'll be the chef. So that was it, sorted. We had a wine expert, wine and beer expert, front of house expert, and a chef.
Wow.
So it all fell into place, and we found the olive branch and bought it in November '99.
So when you set out on this journey, did you intend to make food the USP for the business?
Yeah, very much so. Well, I suppose what we wanted to do, we had found it difficult going out to places that we wanted to go to, that serving the type of food and wine and quality that we wanted to eat without having to book or go to a restaurant, and without having to put a tie on or dress up more formally. We felt we wanted to go somewhere and have really good food and really nice wine and good beer, but was relaxed and informal. And you didn't have to, dress for, and more importantly, you didn't have to book 6 weeks ahead, or you didn't have to book full stop. So we thought the idea of kind of putting all those ingredients into a pub, into a place where you can just walk into, you can have a pint of beer, you can ask to look at the menu, and if you fancy the food that's on the menu, you can stay and eat. So that was the whole philosophy behind it. We kind of said the whole point of the olive branch was that there were no rules. You could come and you could eat fish and chips and have a bottle of Chassagne, £50 bottle of Chassagne Montreux if you wanted to, or you could have a fillet steak and you could have a pint of beer if you wanted to, and you could come in the summer and wear shorts and a t-shirt and sit wherever you want. There was no kind of, we only serve restaurant food in this area and we only serve bar food here. It was sit wherever you want, eat whatever you want, drink whatever you want, and just relax. And everybody seemed to appreciate that.
Well, looking around us now, I would say it's pretty full.
Yeah, for our Friday lunchtime, we're full today. We've got 45 guests in for lunch today. So, we're doing very, very well. We're doing very well. Fridays are very popular, and we're also doing this lunch for even less promotion at the moment, which is working very well for us. So, yeah, it's good.
And I would say that people are pretty much dressed as you described as well.
Yeah.
They look really comfortable, and you have an atmosphere that's really nice.
Good. Yeah, thank you.
That when you walk in, you think, oh, yeah, I can come in here and relax.
Yeah. Well, that was exactly that. That was the whole point at the beginning, so that it was still now, but sort of 25 years ago, you had, if you went out, there was this kind of like, you had to dress up, all this formality to it. There weren't really restaurants. There were pubs, of course there were pubs, but some of the pubs still served very, very good food, but it was still a little bit the time of the, chicken in the basket, chicken Kiev, a little bit the time of that sort of thing, or pies. And we just wanted somewhere where, exactly that, where you could walk into and you could relax and you felt that you didn't have to be conscious of what you were doing or what you were wearing or how you were behaving or, so that was the whole idea. So I'm glad it still does that now today. So
how do you feel about people coming in just for a pint and not eating?
Yeah, very happy with that. I mean, it's changed a little bit since when we first opened, but certainly when we first opened, we were very much a village pub. Of course, in those days as well, there was no smoking ban, so people used to go to the pub for a pint of beer and a cigarette. So the smoking ban changed it quite a bit, and obviously now now there's it's become more. People don't go out as much. Obviously, the prices have increased, and we are more foodie led. But yeah, we're still very much a village pub, and the kind of that kind of pub drinking culture has changed a little bit. There's not so much locals anymore. Clipsham's a smaller village, so we don't have so many people, but we still have a really, really good following from the village. We have a Thursday night club. There's half a dozen of them who come in every Thursday night and drink beer, which is really nice. And then that's the gents from the village, and the ladies have just started doing it. They come in every once a month on a Wednesday, and there's about 10 or 12 of them, and they frequent us on Friday nights, and a lot of them still come out for lunch and dinner. So we see most of the village. But yeah, it's still we would love to. The answer is we serve pints of beer. We love it when people just come along and have a pint of beer. We're more than welcome to
Well, we were
do
talking
that.
about this on the way in. When you're tucked away as you are,
Yeah.
Clipsham's not the sort of place that you just happen to drive through
No,
very
exactly.
often.
No.
It's not on the way to anywhere. So a pub like this has to be a destination pub rather than somewhere that people just happen to stumble across.
Yeah.
And I guess you've got the Michelin star, and so it's pretty famous.
Yeah.
I mean,
If you're enjoying this podcast, please leave us a comment in your preferred app. If you have suggestions for Rutland pubs or local guests that you would like to see featured, please get in touch.
can you tell me, because I know nothing about it, I'm not a foodie, how do you go about obtaining a Michelin star? What does it involve?
So it involves nothing at all apart from just waiting for it to happen. So there's no with regard to the Michelin. So we had a Michelin star for 10 or 12 years. We were still in the guide. We don't have the star anymore, but we're still very much in the guide. But yeah, with regard to Michelin, you do nothing at all. We didn't. When we first were awarded a star, we were only the second pub in the country to have ever got a star. Wow. The first star was awarded to a pub the year before us, and we had no clue whatsoever. A friend of Sean's, rang us up and said, "Congratulations! I can't believe it. You've done incredibly well." And Sean said, "Well, what do you mean?" And he said, "You've won a Michelin star." And Sean was like, "We didn't even know they'd been. We didn't even know we were in the guidebook." So it was a complete shock because before that they didn't, they didn't go to pubs. Michelin didn't, it was very much for restaurants, for fine dining. And I think they decided, to a certain extent, from a marketing point of view, they decided it was probably a good idea to get into pubs, to maybe that was the way the trends were going, to sell a few more books. So yeah, it was a complete shock. But we had a quick visit about a week after, an inspector came along just to tell us, to kind of say, don't worry, just do what you're doing. What you do is incredibly, is really, really good. And basically the star represents the fact that you are a starred pub. So we're not comparing you to fine dining restaurants. So, for example, Hambleton Hall's got a Michelin star, but we're not anything like Hambleton Hall. Yeah. So we're a Michelin starred pub. So they say we're a like you were just mentioning, the Michelin guide says we are worth a detour, which is what the 1 star means, that we're worth a detour.
So would Hambleton Hall go through the same process? They'll either get one or they won't. There's nothing they can do. You don't apply for it, or there's no standard to reach. These people just drive around the country, go to places and decide that they're going to award you one or not. Yeah,
and you won't even know that. More often than not, you won't even know that they've been, or they try to do it that you don't even know that they've been.
I have no idea.
They used to give you they used to sometimes give you their card, and you would say to them, "Have you enjoyed everything?" And they'd just say, "Thank you very much." They wouldn't even say, "Yes, I've enjoyed it," or anything. And before internet, etc., then they would just say, "Can we just check our form and clarify that these are still your opening hours? This is still the correct address." But that was about as much as you got out of them. But nowadays, that's all done. They send you an email which just asks you to update your details, and that's it. So we don't know whether we've had an inspection for the last 2 or 3 years. Wow. Occasionally you see a picture on Twitter, so you know that they've been, because they'll mention you and say and put a picture of a dish. But even to the extent that they will crop the picture so much that you can't, work out where they were sitting. So you can't have a look at the grain of furniture, the grain of the table to work out which table they were at to try and see when they came. So you can't, to work out who they were. So no, we don't even know for 3 or 4 years whether we've had an inspection or not.
Do you know
They
what?
say they come every year.
I could do that job. I'd like to do
that's
that.
what-
What a great job that would be.
Isn't it? Yeah. But the AA inspectors come and see it. They're much more. They will say afterwards, and they have standards that you have to achieve, which is nice because they tell you what you need to do. But the AA inspectors say it's a tough job. So, but I suppose you don't. I suppose like everything, you have places that you have preferences, whether they're good or bad hasn't got anything to do with it. But you certainly, we all have different preferences of what we like. So I'd imagine when you're visiting, and also they say that it's difficult because we'll often know that the inspectors, they will come at 12 o'clock because they've then got another meal to eat at 6 o'clock in the evening,
right,
and then
yeah.
they've got to get up early and travel and drive. 4 hours to the other side of the country. So they claim it's a tough job.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Do you think it's a reflection on the countries that the AA are really upfront and they tell you exactly what they're going to do
Yeah.
and do it?
Oh, and the
The
French
French are a
don't.
complete mystery.
Exactly.
You have no idea what's going on.
I'd imagine so. Yeah, it sounds about right, doesn't it? Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
One thing that's interesting, because we picked this up on a couple of, I think we've been to 4 pubs and spoken to the landlords or owners,
Yeah.
and most of them have been relatively new. They've come into the industry from outside
Yeah.
and made a success of it, often with pubs that were out of use and have been put back into use. So you keep hearing that the pub industry is dying every time you pick up a newspaper.
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
10,000
yeah.
pubs closed last month or whatever.
Yeah.
And yet, around here, everybody we meet has come into it from a standing start and made something that wasn't there before. And I don't know whether it's unique to the area or.
Yeah, I think we are quite lucky around here. It's quite an affluent area, so that helps. But there are certainly pubs that are unfortunately closing down. You see the Black Horse at Empingham, which seems to be always open and closed. So there's still, the industry is still definitely having a tough time. I think the ones who are successful are incredibly passionate and work incredibly hard. I think the younger ones who are, or maybe all the people who are doing it for the first time and putting their whole heart and soul into it, and are committed to do it. But yeah, it is difficult, definitely difficult at the moment because we're finding it tough.
Presumably, it's having the right team. Of
Yeah,
people.
very much so. Yeah.
So you came in with a core of 3 people,
Yeah.
and then you grew from then.
Yeah. And now we have 36 staff.
Wow.
Wow.
I know.
So
Or I bought 36 Christmas presents, so I'm presuming they were all they all work here. I think they are. But yeah.
I guess you must have a very. I bet you're very careful about recruiting for the Olive Branch.
Yeah, but it is also incredibly difficult at the moment. But yeah, it is about having the right culture and the right people. But there's also an element of having the right, when you have the right team, often you'll bring people into the team. And I suppose it's like any business; they either fit into the team and it works, or they maybe decide it's not for them. But yeah, we've been recruiting for a long time. So certainly from a front of house point of view, I suppose we know the kind of characteristics of individuals that work for us and enjoy being with us. And from a kitchen point of view, there's certainly a skill set that we need, and the same sort of thing. There's a certain background, I suppose, of skills that helps with what we do. But there's an increasing element of that not being available. So we really do have to train our staff, give them time, show them things, spend more time than we do, because the skill set isn't around anymore. But I suppose the passion and the individuals are, so it's just a different way of doing it.
Sure. Well,
Yeah.
so let's talk about food.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on buying local, first of all?
What are my thoughts? I would love to buy more locally. We buy as much as we can, but it is difficult when you're running a busy operation, when you're serving 100 people a day, and therefore you need quality. Well, you need quality you can get locally, but you need consistency and quantity. So we'll have a kind of core of dishes that we don't. Some of them we'll buy locally but there'll be other dishes which are more specials. So which means that we can buy locally, but we will only get, for example, from Stretton we get hogget. But they can only provide us with 2 or 3 hoggets a year, and those they come all at the same time. So all of a sudden you've got 3 hoggets that we need to butcher and prepare and utilise on the menu within a certain period of time. But then again, you then have to wait until the next season when you get 3 more.
Sure.
What is a hogget?
So a hogget is a sheep. So it's lamb, then it's hogget. So it's a teenage sheep, a hogget. So first of all, it's lamb up to the age of 1. Then after the second year on grass, it becomes hogget, and then after the third year on grass, it becomes mutton. So it's between a lamb and a mutton.
Sure.
So it's more full flavoured, maybe a little bit fattier, and it's been on grass for longer. So it's a richer flavour.
Because that's the second time I've heard the word hogget.
Yeah.
The first time being recently, I've just watched the BBC drama called Boiling Point.
Oh right,
and
okay.
that was one of the dishes that they served.
Oh yeah,
and I had no idea what hogget was then, so now I know.
That's what it is. Yeah.
We're going to hear it again.
So that sort of thing. So we lamb we get from lawns. We get lamb from lawns. So that's
nice.
So they were able to get it. So there's certain products that we can get consistency and quality of locally, but there's certain products that are very much and yes, obviously beers. We can get lots of local gins. A few local wine vineyards started to crop up, so maybe soon some local wine. And then obviously through the season, but it's more game at the moment,
So
venison at the moment.
That's what I was going to mention is about seasonal food. You try and do as much as that as you can.
Yeah,
Keep
very
it
much
rid-
so. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And it's also about. It's kind of about sustainability, isn't it? And it's about. Although we do occasionally have it on the menu. I find it really, really difficult when we are getting broccoli in and look on the label and it's come from Kenya, and I just think we shouldn't if it's coming from Kenya at the moment, we shouldn't be using it. But there's certain times of the year when you can't get everything local and you therefore need to buy from further afield. But and we still have to be competitive on price. So local's not cheaper because it's smaller, and you have to support the producers, and they're producing smaller amounts and they've got big overheads.
Right.
And these massive, great big farms in Kenya can produce it a lot cheaper even by flying it over. It's just so there's an element of that balance of what you want to do of buying local, being sustainable, but also being a business. So it's a tough balance to find.
How do you think it would be received if you were to say to people, "I'm sorry, but we don't have broccoli at this time of the year because we have to import it"?
Yeah.
So it's not on the menu. Would you, if your menu became more limited because you actually followed what you could get locally, do you think the business would suffer, or do you think people would
I think
appreciate it?
No, I think it's the direction that we're going in, but it's also I suppose it's a cost thing as well. I think we're certainly going in that direction. We're certainly trying to go in that direction, and there's certainly the big thing at the moment is with regard to fish. The difference between farmed fish and sustainably caught fish, and the price is absolutely astronomically different.
Did you see the Netflix series?
No, I didn't.
No,
I haven't watched it because a friend of mine watched it and he stopped eating fish. And I thought so I haven't watched it exactly.
It's enough to make you stop eating fish that isn't wild. Caught.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
definitely.
And that's the really difficult thing. That getting that right balance between if we bought wild fish, it would just cost an absolute fortune, and for us then to try and pass that cost on, I don't know, maybe people wouldn't, but it's certainly a direction that we're trying to go in, but it's tricky.
Yeah.
It's tricky. We've still got a business to run. We've still got 35 staff to employ. We've still got wages to pay. We've still got overheads to cover, and we have to get that balance of the right number of people against the cost, the prices that we're charging.
I guess you must have some really serious conversations when you're planning.
We do, very much so. Yeah, big conversations and the price fluctuations, but the kitchen team do a brilliant job. They're buying they are phoning 5 or 6 suppliers every single evening. Often maybe 2 or 3 different fish suppliers to get the best possible price. 2 or 3 butchers. to different veg suppliers, and every evening they're on the phone placing orders and getting prices just to get the right product and at the right price.
Do you promote the sustainability aspect of your menus and your choices?
Not particularly, not at the moment. Again, it's something we may well move towards. We've always been, I suppose, we're always looking at different things, but we've always been the type of establishment who've tried to how do you put it? We try not to talk too much about ourselves. We would just want people to come in and enjoy it, and we want them to trust that we are doing the right thing. We don't want to have to say, we do this, our fish is from here, our this is from here. We just expect them to trust what we do and that we do the best, and that's just should be the expectation. So I suppose what we try to do is, under offer and overachieve. Is that the right? I'm not sure what the phrase is, but it's that sort of thing.
Under promise and over deliver.
Manage expectations. That's what we try to do. And for us, it's all about when you come here, you have fish and chips. We have fish and chips on the menu, but we don't necessarily say it's line caught fish, beer battered fish and chips with garden peas, etc., etc. We just say it's olive branch fish and chips, and the expectation is that olive branch fish and chips should be the best quality fish and chips because that's what we do. So we that's the way we prefer to do things. Just a bit more low key, I suppose.
Okay.
Have you considered growing your own food?
We do. We have a paddock. Yeah. So we do grow our own food.
You pointed towards the door.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, sorry, I'm not pointing on a podcast. Isn't great. Is it?
No, but
I pointed through the window.
So it's
across the road.
Throw.
Yeah, it's across the road. Yeah. So we've got the olive branch on one side of the road. On the other side of the road, we've got beach house where we've got 6 bedrooms, accommodation, and next to beach house is a paddock on the corner, and we've kindly been leased the paddock from one of the villagers, and we've got a polytunnel there. We used to have chickens. And then the foxes kept getting the chickens, so we don't have chickens anymore. But we grow our own. Obviously through the summer, lots of tomatoes, courgettes, cucumbers, lettuces in the polytunnel, herbs. Not a lot coming out the polytunnel out of there at the moment. But courgette flowers, and then we're just now starting again our replanting season. So we've got gardener Ross who works over there 3 days a week. And we're trying to do more and more. Wow. But again, it's a big investment in labour primarily. It's all very well buying a packet of seeds, but the labour to look after that and to tend that, it's a big full-time job.
What about foragers? Do you have local foragers popping in with baskets of mushrooms and things like that? Yeah,
little bit. Not so much as we used to. When it first started, we had a few more, but villagers will come in with slows. Mm-hmm. We've even had people finding truffle locally. We even had a chap came in and said, I've been told this is a truffle, but I don't know whether it is or not. So we've had local truffles found.
I didn't even know you could get them in Rutland.
Yeah.
I need to get a dog.
This was near Stamford. Yeah, you need to get a dog. Yeah. You have to spend a lot of money training the dog. That's a lot of time training the dog. But more, not so much foraging. And when we get the time, we'll forage ourselves a little bit. Wild garlic, mushrooms occasionally. But again, local pheasant. But the rules and regulations, understandably, have changed on that. Whereas we used to be able to buy directly from the shoot. Now they have to go through a game dealer, and it has to go through a qualified butcher to check the meat before it comes to us. So there's lots more loopholes, I suppose, understandably, that we have to go through. And little bits and pieces we'll get. Hedgerow berries, all that sort of stuff. We'll do a little bit of, but it's finding the kitchen boys would love to do it, but it's finding the time for them to do it.
Last year was a bumper crop of
was it
blackberries?
Oh yeah, blackberries were good. Yeah. I have them growing on the hedge outside of my house. Yeah, and we picked a lot. Yeah, it's very good.
Really good.
Yeah.
So what about your own tastes in food? What's your number one meal?
My number one meal is very simple. I know it's very strange, but I love it like a good Greek tomatoes, bacon, feta cheese. Just very and a lager. I don't know why.
That sounds good.
And a lager. I like
good quality.
Yeah, ingredients. I just love fresh ingredients. I love a really good a really good tomato, and just nicely. I love cheese, nicely made cheese. Just proper smoked bacon. I just love really good quality ingredients. I don't need for it to be done, for it to be, cooked incredibly well. I just like the simplicity of the ingredients. But then obviously, that kind of goes against what we do here at the Olive Branch. But certainly, there is a requirement nowadays of customers to see new skills in the food, Master Chef and those sorts of things. People's expectations of that, and the flavors that can be created by great chefs using. But yes, simplicity for me, I really enjoy. Ben, the head chef, gets a little bit frustrated because he knows I have simple flavor preferences.
You're talking my language.
But I love complicated. But then he creates the most amazing venison dish with the chocolate sauce and with beetroot and So I just love food. I just love food, but I do love the simplicity of just great ingredients. I just think it's incredible.
Yeah. Quite often you see the chefs sitting down after their day, and they've got a great big bacon sandwich.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know. We're all the same. We go back to that kind of comfort food, don't we? Or or they're all they finish work at 10 o'clock and they're off to Zorba's or whatever it's called in Stamford and get a kebab. But it's kind of like but there is that element of what you work with you don't always want to do. But no, I just as I say, I love a good kebab. I love just all food and drink. I just really enjoy.
Yeah, me too.
It's quite fortunate, really. Yeah.
So, what about plans for the future? Have you got anything exciting on the horizon?
No, not really. Not at the moment. I keep toying with the idea of doing other things. It would be amazing. I would love to have something in Stamford. I'd love to have a business, a restaurant, a tapas bar, a small brasserie or something in Stamford. I think that would work really well and be brilliant. But it's just it's finding the time. It's finding the time to do things, and I suppose the older I get, the more risk averse I get. I suppose a little bit. That's the trouble. So I keep thinking I'll rely upon my young chefs or young front of house staff to maybe want to do something, and I'll help them do it maybe. So it'd be lovely to do something else. But then I love the Olive Branch. I'm committed to the Olive Branch. I love looking after the customers here. So it's just it's finding the time to be able to do that and to do it properly, because I don't want to do anything that isn't going to be 100% done really, really well.
How do you attract your clientele? Is it word of mouth or regulars coming back all of the time? Because let's say it's not somewhere you would stumble across.
No, it's certainly very much word of mouth is the biggest one by far. That's the biggest recommendation. But over the years, we've done incredibly well, as you mentioned earlier, with the awards we've won. So that brings us a great deal of publicity, which helps. We've had amazing reviews in national papers. So we've been over the years. We've been in all the national papers, so we've done incredibly well from that. So that really, really helps.
Have you ever had Giles Corran?
We have had Giles Corran.
You have?
We have
I
had
love Giles
Corran.
Corran.
Yeah, we have had Giles Corran. Interestingly or not, I don't know whether they know it or not, but we're now only open 5 days a week, so we close on a Monday and a Tuesday. But we used to be open 7 days a week. And he came to Rutland, and he wrote one of his typical Giles Corran articles. He was considering whether to buy a big house in the Cotswolds, but he then heard of this little county called Rutland. And when he got here, he said he could probably buy the whole of Rutland for the price that he was paying for his house in the Cotswolds. But he ended up buying a house in the Cotswolds anyway. He didn't come to Rutland. But he was going to go for. He'd been recommended to go for lunch at the King's Arms in Wing, but he got there and it was closed. So he came here instead. So we did very well. And he was very good. He was very good to us, which isn't always. He's got better recently. He seems to be enjoying a lot more places recently than he used to. But yeah, he was very good to us. He did make a comment about that our food was very 1980s or something. But he eats London food. He comes out of the countryside. I'm not sure. I think 80s was a bit of a stretch. But yeah, we've had Giles Corran and guy from the Financial Times and lots of. In fact, some customers who are here today very kindly their friend was the food reviewer from the Financial Times, and they brought him with them. So it's lovely. So those sorts of little stories like that of customers that are so supportive and joyous, And some of the first reviews we had for our bedrooms were done from villagers sending letters to national newspapers saying you must come and discover our little pub that's just open around the corner. So it's really so that's I suppose that we know when we've had an article, the phone starts, but then we're very much into the usual social media. We have a big mailing list, so we send out emails, e-shots quite often, telling people of the events we do, brochures, flyers. So there's a hell of a lot involved in the marketing of the Olive Branch as well. Really, there's a lot of that happens that we really work very hard on to get the right marketing.
How did the name come about? Was it the name of the place before you took it over?
So the Olive Branch it's been the Olive Branch since we think about 1890. So it's always been called ever since it's been an ale house, it's been called the Olive Branch. And the story is that the inn used to be further into the village, and it used to be nearer to the manor house, and the lord of the village was getting upset because he could hear all the locals coming out of the pub or out of the ale house at 11 or 12 o'clock at night, drunk, waking him up, disturbing him. So he closed the ale house. So there was no ale house in the village. So all the villagers were deeply upset. So he decided to reopen the ale house in these 3 farms. So the Olive Branch is 3 farm labourers' cottages. So he decided to turn one of the farm labourers' cottages into an ale house, and he offered it back to the village as a peace offering. So it's called the Olive Branch, and the sign is actually a dove with an olive branch in its mouth, and and it's always been called the Olive Branch since 1890 or prior to 1890. Lovely story. So no Mediterranean. Interestingly, I think for a while on TripAdvisor we were listed as a Greek restaurant because we were called the Olive Branch. Everyone just presumed we must be Greek or something.
I think that's our best pub origin story so far.
It's a good one, isn't it? Yeah. But it's lovely. So it has a biblical reference. So it's nothing to do with Mediterranean food or anything like that. So it's a lovely little story. So that's still the Olive Branch, still a peace offering to the village. We still have to make peace to the village every now and then. So it's still appropriate. So that's us.
Oh dear. So that was fantastic.
Yeah, very interesting.
Thank you. Good.
Thank you very much for your time, Ben.
It's a pleasure.
I really appreciate
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, it's been good.
No, it's been nice chatting. Thank you.
We hope that you enjoyed listening to Ben Jones. We can confirm that the food and drinks at the Olive Branch are excellent and would recommend a visit. The next episode is another not to be missed. Our local MP, Alicia Cairns, gives honest answers to a variety of questions and topics. When rain stops play, it's time for some pub natter. So that's a wrap, and thank you for listening to our latest pub natter. If you visit timothyives.com/pub natter, you will find photos, links, and more information about each episode. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and please subscribe to ensure you don't miss a pub or one of our amazing guests. The Pub Natter theme tune is by Tom Arnold. That was a Pub Natter broadcast.